Hey everyone, hope your day is going well. We are back with another reaction, and we're going to check out some things that are found in every home back in the 1970s. I think this will be primarily USA, so I can't verify that. Even if it was in Belgium where I am, I couldn't verify it because I wasn't alive in the 70s. So you guys are going to be the judge, the jury, and maybe the executioner. Let's see.
Life in the 1970s was much simpler than it is today. We weren't constantly bombarded with technology that seems to engulf every person we encounter. Socializing meant going out for a night on the town or even having people over for a gathering. If you think back to the 1970s, there were some distinctive items that you would see in homes, and no one sees these things today. So sit back and let's reminisce together. Today, beadboard or shiplap is very popular for interior decorating, but in the 1970s, it was all about wood paneling. It may cover one wall, or it might cover the whole entire room. The paneling was often made from plywood or pressured fiberboard that was designed to look like real wood. It usually looks...
This looks a little better than that previous image, but it does give a little more of a dark feel to the interior. Makes maybe the room a little smaller. No, we have that too in Belgium. There was indeed a period in time where people loved that on the ceiling, on the walls, and nowadays, usually when people buy homes like that, they tear it out and put something else on. Unless you like that kind of thing, it's almost like being in a chalet or a ski lodge or something. I don't know. You a fan of wood paneling, or is it just nostalgic? Objectively, what do you think?
Looked fake, but it went along nicely with the earthly feel that most 70s homes had. If the walls weren't lined with wood paneling, then you would probably see some funky wallpaper.
Yeah.
There was an assortment of styles to choose from, but they were mainly sporting geometric shapes and bright contrasting colors.
I do like those.
Textured walls were also something found in homes. They might have been flocked or foiled paper or possibly just textured plaster.
Right.
But the texture and the colors used in the 70s usually made them irresistible to the touch. Once you figured out how you wanted the walls to look, it was time to move on to the floors.
That's a lot of green.
If there was one type of flooring that screams 70s more than any other, it would have to be wall-to-wall shag carpeting. This interior design trend was huge, and it was often found in eye-searing colors like bright orange. Not only was this a huge item to see in homes, it was also a huge item to maintain, from vacuuming to raking it, just so it would look good.
Wow, raking the rug. You raked the rug today? I don't know. I didn't. Whose turn is it?
Kitchen and bathroom floors in the 70s had a distinctive style, and they were by no means plain. Linoleum was available in lots of bold patterns and colors. Most households loved them because they were durable and easy to clean up. Some of the patterns that could be seen during the time featured geometric shapes, while others took their inspiration from nature.
Yeah, we had linoleum too, and when I was little in an apartment we lived in. Dang. Forgot about the linoleum.
Fireplaces were another staple of 70s homes. Usually they were made of rough rock or stones that would take up the whole wall. They really had that look that you would see in a hunting lodge or cabin, and they certainly made a statement.
Nice.
If you didn't see stone, then it was also common to see exposed brick. This could be around a fireplace or just a plain wall of it. It was almost like people wanted that warehouse feel where they were living. You might also see these brick walls with angled ceilings. In the 1970s, socializing with neighbors, family, and friends was very popular. Once the guests made it to the living room, then they probably had a seat on your floral sofa. These were also big, bright, and bold. They may have had daisies or sunflowers on them, and what says nature more than sitting in a field of flowers?
Good point.
If the couch wasn't their style, then they would probably pick the chair that was solid colored. It seemed like almost everyone had the Harvest Gold one, but yet you could also see avocado green or persimmon orange. And who could forget the round ottomans that were also in the same popular colors of the time? Beanbag chairs were very popular in the 70s. They could be seen in living rooms, family rooms, or basements.
Oh, yeah.
Once you got in them, you were there to stay because they were so comfy. But
No, because you can't get out of them anymore. Maybe when you're a kid, but hey, help me out of here. Grandma, who's going to pick up Grandma from the beanbag?
these lovable beanbag
Okay.
chairs certainly made a mess when they split open.
Oh.
TVs are a common sight in living rooms of today, but in the 1970s, they were a staple in the decorating.
Man,
They
move
weren't
that.
flat and hung
Man.
on the wall like today. These were basically wooden pieces of furniture that your living room was arranged around. Not only were these good for watching your favorite television shows, but they also had plenty of room on top for knickknacks and family photos.
Yeah, but you know, if you have to move, man, that's a B word. Yo. Like, oh, if you want a TV in your bedroom or upstairs, you gotta drag this thing upstairs, man. It's dangerous. Oof.
Speaking of televisions, TV trays were very popular.
We
They
never
were
had
perfect
those.
for your home-cooked meal or TV dinner while you watched your favorite show.
Is that
After all,
President
you
Reagan?
couldn't miss it. There were no VCRs or DVRs back then. Something else that you might see in living rooms were crocheted blankets.
Oh,
These were often made
you can see that in my living room right now. My wife loves to do that. You know, we have a couple of those. Hey, now what is it? Nanny squares? Why do I know this?
from scratchy wool, so they weren't the best for
Granny
covering up
squares,
while
not
watching
nanny squares. The granny squares. I said nanny squares. Oh,
your favorite movie.
yeah.
Usually they could be found on the back of
They're
the
nice.
couch or on the ottoman. Maybe your grandmother made these, or maybe mom picked up a new hobby during the winter while watching television. These crocheted blankets had all of the colors and the patterns of the time period which we loved. You can't hardly mention the 70s and not
What is
talk
that?
about macrame. This was not only in every home, but it was also all over the house. You could see these as
That's
potted
scary,
plant
man.
holders or various other wall hangings, and especially owls. Pottery also seemed to be a staple in every home, and it really went along with the earthly theme that houses had. These may have been from someone in the house picking up a new hobby or from the rise of ceramic artists in the decade. It was not uncommon to see ceramic lamps, vases, and more.
Yeah, a lot of people buy this up nowadays. You know, they call it retro or vintage design. And, you know, if you like that style, there's a lot of fun to be had on flea
Fringe
markets.
was all over the place in the 70s. It was on vests and it was even a hairstyle, but it could also be found in many homes.
Hairstyle?
It
What?
may have adorned the top of a doorway, but it was also frequently found on the top of curtains or on the bottom of
Yeah.
lampshades. Apparently, people in the 1970s just enjoyed cleaning more things.
That's a good one.
There
Yeah.
are several things that could be found in rec rooms that were unique to the 1970s.
That's cool.
Whether you want to
man.
call them pod chairs, egg chairs, ball chairs, or globe chairs, these seats were actually quite cozy. You may have
What?
even had one in your
Stereo lays an egg. What? There's speakers in there? What? Audio egg? What the? This is futuristic stuff, man. What happened? What happened with the egg chairs?
bedroom. Funky lights were usually somewhere to be
I've
found near
seen
these
those.
chairs. These weird little lamps with colored filaments that glowed lit up the room, and everyone
fireworks.
thought they were cool. Without them, the room would have been much more gloomy than they already were. Chrome was
Ooh,
on every
that's
car
a
in the
nice car.
1970s, but it also found its way into the home. Chrome accents could be found on kitchen chair legs, coffee tables, appliances, and even lamps. A little bit of shine was perfectly fine. Pyrex dishes are still available today, but they
Oh,
are really
yeah.
just plain and clear when compared to the 70s. Back then, you were proud to display your casserole dish or mixing bowl on the table.
Hey, and those are durable. I bet you that somebody's watching that still has the same thing from the 70s, right? Not really a great business model, but good for us.
No kitchen seemed complete without the glass pendant lights that were above the table. These outrageously huge globes were super popular in the 1970s, and especially so if they were orange.
Orange, that's green, man.
Vinyl tablecloths were a must-have on kitchen and dining room tables. They made cleanup a breeze, and they really helped to protect the wood table that you had. Now these seem to be reserved for picnic tables outside. If you really wanted to impress while entertaining guests, then you brought out the fondue pots. Everyone thought these were the greatest until someone dropped the cheese in their lap or on the shag carpet. Hopefully, you just had them.
Yeah, this is with oil, right? We had those too. It's fun to do, but it's dangerous, especially when there's kids around and stuff with the hot oil. Yeah, we used to do, fondue in Belgium. A lot of people do fondue on Christmas Eve. Yeah. Still kind of dangerous.
Stay over the vinyl tablecloth. Long before we had Keurigs, people had massive coffee makers that made a whole pot of coffee, and these were in every kitchen. There were several different brands, but Mr. Coffee seemed to be one of the most popular ones. Care for another pot of coffee? If you were in a house with a second floor, then you probably had floating stairs. They looked a little dangerous, but they were certainly a focal point in the home designs of the 1970s. During the 1970s, rattan furniture found its way into the homes from the patio. If you didn't have a peacock chair in your living room, then I'm sure you knew someone who did.
I still do.
Phones in the 70s were meant to last, and they actually had some weight to them. They couldn't do what cell phones can do now, but they definitely served their purpose, which was for talking. Push-button phones became available in 1963, but since they were made to last, you probably still had rotary phones in your home. If you did have a push-button phone in the 70s, then you were certainly embracing the future.
There's some crazy designs with the phones. It always has been. But the best thing about it was just, oh, what? Leave me alone. Now it's not the same. It's not the same.
Alarm clocks were a necessary item to have in the 1970s, and people were starting to have fancy ones. Do you remember the alarm clocks that sported numbers that flipped? They made a cool clicking sound and came in the ever-popular fake wood veneer or some bright 70s colors. The kitchen appliances of today come in white, black, or stainless steel. But in the 70s, we had different options like yellow or green. These appliances are long gone now, but probably not because they broke down. By the 80s, people just wanted these colors completely gone. Taking vacations in the...
Yeah, man. We still see some of those kitchens, if you buy a house from the 70s or 80s and nobody ever changed anything, usually people say, that's gotta go. That's gotta go. Because it's different tastes and all. And then in another 20, people are going to come and say, what is this? Let's put the 70s kitchen back. It always comes back, like all these retro vintage designs with the flowers and these lampshades and stuff. That a lot of people love those. So it's like a cycle. The pants with the wide, how do you call those in English? I don't know. The legs, the pant legs that are wider. That's back in. My daughter loves those.
The 70s was a big
Everything
deal.
Comes back.
Many of these moments were captured on Super 8 film or placed on slides. Family or neighbors would then come over and they would all gather around for the big show. You certainly don't see these projectors or screens anymore. Home stereos were also a common sight in living rooms. The receiver might have been placed on top of the television, or it might have had its own piece of furniture to hold it up, and the record player. Stereo cabinets were the preferred way to go because they could hold all of your records and the coveted 8 tracks. The speakers were often found on the floor on each side of the stereo cabinet or the television. Of course, the speakers and the components were often covered in the faux wood grain of the time.
I like those, man.
Since we just mentioned records and 8 tracks, let's talk about them. Vinyl records peaked in the 1970s when the concept albums like Eagles' Hotels California came out. The design covers of albums is something that seems to be a lost art. Surprisingly, records seem to be coming back, but one thing that doesn't seem to be coming back is 8 tracks. At the time, everyone wanted an 8-track player in the home and in the car. They were easy to stow away, but it was annoying how your song could be cut off as it went to the next track.
Oh, really? I never had a track, or I only found out about those in films and in other types of media uh, as I got older. I don't even know if it was really popular in Belgium or not. Cassettes, yeah, sure. CDs, 8 tracks. That is, I don't know. Never really heard somebody talk about it here.
Colonial furniture made a comeback in the 70s, and perhaps this was due to the bicentennial. Regardless, many homes had these pieces of furniture adorning their living rooms, bedrooms, and other areas. I hope you enjoyed this little walk through the 1970s.
It's
The
fun.
decade had a style of its own, and it really was a great decade to experience. What are some of the things that you remember in your home? As always, thank you so much for watching.
Hey, man. Oh, there's 1970s fashion over there. I might check that out. I bet you a lot of these things are back in style right now. It's fun to see how it comes back, and uh, yeah, things change over time, and it's great to reminisce sometimes and learn a few new things. And yeah, did you have these things in your home? Yeah, you probably had. Hey, thank you so much for spending some time with me. I hope you have a wonderful day. See you in the next one. Goodbye.